Hello everyone. Let's talk about a very tiny nation of Eastern Europe and former Soviet Union satellite state. What is the name of that country? The country is Lithuania. Lithuania is the largest Baltic state with only 27.9 lakh population. But these very tiny nations dare to challenge the Beijing autocratic rule by giving the permissions to Taiwan to open a Taiwanese representative office in Lithuanian capital Vilnius. And that has unleashed a furious response more than 6,500 kilometers farther east in Beijing. Why the China is so furious about this? Because the China regards the Taiwan as a breakaway province and the views any diplomatic relationship with Taiwan as an attack on his one China policy. Because China regarded the Taiwan as its own part, not as a nation. That's why in the recent time Beijing putting the pressures on the countries those who had diplomatic relations with Taiwan. Recently Nicaragua snapped the ties with Taipei and seized the Taiwan's embassy to hand it over to China illegally. But there are so many very few nations those are maintaining the relationship with Taiwan every day, even today, despite having the huge pressure from Beijing. And those brave countries are Pacific Island nations Marshall Island, Central American nations Guatemala and St. Lucia, and African nations are called the Eswatini, formerly known as an Swaziland. But the Lithuania is an EU member state. It has permitted Taiwan to open its first de facto embassy on European soil in 18 years. So no non-European countries have allowed the Taipei to open the embassy in any countries of the European Union. After 18 years, Lithuania is allowing. Why the Lithuania is taking this hard step? Because Lithuania is giving importance to the democratic values being a nation state. Lithuania fought really hard to get independence from Soviet Union. When Soviet Union was about to fall apart, Lithuania was the first country to declare its independence on March 11, 1990 unilaterally. And in 1991, Soviet Union fall apart and fall apart and created the 15 nations within the Soviet Union. And Lithuania was among them. Lithuania is a true democratic nation who is giving importance to the democratic values and the values to the Taiwan's democracy that China wants to crush as they did in Hong Kong. But what are the other steps Lithuania took along the last bold one? But Lithuania did not take this step in the first order. They took the some of the steps previously. And those steps are in September, Lithuanian Defense Ministry officially advised the consumers not to buy the Chinese smartphones. And why? And they suggested the people to throw away the Chinese smartphones. Because according to the Lithuanian nation cybersecurity, the phone contained a censorship feature that could be activated at any time. The China do it every time with the every nations. Whatever the goods they send to the other nations, they send with something which is suspicious. They did it with the African nations. They did it with the other nations, those who are economically vulnerable. They are giving the loan to the nations and trying to take cover of the something which is strategically important. They are trying to bully the every nations, those who are living in and around of the China. China shares the boundary with 18 nations, but they have boundary dispute problem with 22 nations. So China is a country which is very suspicious of himself, very suspicious about his own people. That is why they are autocratic. They do not believe its own people. So Lithuania also plans to expand its 5G communication network without the participation of any Chinese company for the safety and the national security of the country, because the Chinese could spying on the Lithuanian people through the mobile phones, through the network, 5G network or the 4G network. Lithuania also pulled out of 17 plus 1 diplomatic format in which Beijing engages with the Central and the East European countries to draw the future map on different issues. And the Beijing re- retained its autocratic style to punish the Lithuania, just like they want to punish the Canberra, Australia. They during the time of the COVID-19 or the peak of the COVID-19, Australia wanted the WHO to investigate that from where that COVID-19 virus actually came from, because everybody was suspicious about the Chinese Wuhan laboratory. So they requested the WHO to investigate on the matter to get into the China. Then the China, what the China did? They put the ban on the Australian import. But what they suffered, China? China suffered in massive coal shortages. China suffered massive meat shortages. China suffered massive food shortages because China heavily dependent on Australia. And they are trying to do the same things with Lithuania. First, the China downgraded the diplomatic relationship with tiny Baltic state, then permanently calling its own ambassador from Vilnius and declares the Lithuanian counterpart as an persona non grata. What is persona non grata? Persona non grata means unacceptable or unwelcome persons in a country, and they declared the Lithuanian diplomats as an unwelcome person. So they was in the hurry to leave the country, and they gave no time to the Lithuanian diplomats to leave the country. They just left the embassy as it was. But the Lithuania stands tall to face the elephant by snapping the relationship with the Beijing that will not going to hurt its economy or life daily life of its own people, because because only 1.1% of Lithuania's export in 2020 went to China, and Lithuania also imports some amount from China, same amount Lithuania import from China. So it is not an economical or political burden for Vilnius. It's nothing for the Vilnius, and Beijing will not going to do anything with that. But the large question is why the Lithuania taking such bold step, and why they are trying to get the attentions of the others. Because and why, if they are trying to get the attention of the other, and whose attentions actually? Yes, they are trying to get the attentions, trying to get the attention of Washington, trying to get the attention of the Washington. Why? Because recently the Moscow showed its Soviet era behavior when the Belarusian elections happened and the Alexander Lukashenko became the president through the manipulation in the election system. They fudged the election, the Russian fudged the elections, and they kicked the opposition leader out of the country, and the Lithuania gave them asylum. And also Russia wants to control or influence the people of the Ukraine. They wants to capture the Kiev because Russia claimed the Ukraine as its own. And Lithuania also have the problem with the Moscow that I have already told you, Minsk, the capital of Belarus, and the Beijing. And the Lithuania is also the member of the NATO, and the country's insurance policy items of the national security and its alliance with the USA via its NATO membership. That is why the Lithuania is trying to get the attentions of Washington, because Lithuania so the USA Lithuania wants the USA to protect its sovereignty, freedom from Russian aggression, and the Lithuania being so tiny nation cannot control or cannot fight against the Russia. Russia is a massive state with a massive weapon, and the Washington also have to strain the relationship with the Beijing and the Moscow, and the Lithuania knows it. So the Lithuania played a very smart game by poking the Beijing to get the US's attention to protect itself from Moscow, and they played the very smart game, smartest game they have ever played since they got the independence. And in conclusions, I to fight against the elephant, my say is that to fight against the elephant, you do not have to be an elephant or behave like an elephant. You have to have some courage and fighting will to fight the unequal war, because the ethics driven policy will going to give some edge. So the China is a nation loves to bully the others because the China thinks they are economical giant and cannot be defeated. But recently the Marshall Island shows its way. India also shows its way. So Indian also show the China the what you are. They are not superior. They are just like a gangster wants to capture the cities after cities. If the Lithuania, the Marshall Island, and India can do it, then all the 27 European Union nations can do it, because they are the force. They are the force. They have to take some actions against China. They have to force the China to stop bullying the other nations. Now the questions arises, and today's question is, which of the following are the Baltic states? First option is Norway, Estonia, and the Latvia. Second option is Estonia, Belarus, and the Greece. Third is Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Fourth is Lithuania, Belarus, and Macedonia. If any one of you have any doubts or any questions, please ask me. Thank you very much.